Hello, thank you for joining me today. We're going to cover Title IX compliance, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, as well as the Jeanne Clery Act. We'll discuss Title IX and responsible employees and what that means, relevant laws and policies, university response and obligations, definitions and resources. Then we'll get into the Jeanne Clery Act and what it means to be a campus security authority. Relevant laws and policies. So 1972, right, Title IX, federal civil rights law that prohibits sex discrimination in all areas of education. Jeanne Clery Act, 1998. It actually started in 1990, but was named the Jeanne Clery Act, and we'll explain a little bit more about that later, which requires colleges and universities in the United States to disclose information regarding Clery crimes on Clery geography. It is a consumer protection law. Dear Colleague letter of the 2001. Our current administration rescinded many of the Dear Colleague letters, as there were plenty of them out there. 2001 is what stands. It's the Office of Civil Rights document that provides guidance regarding concerns that arise in sexual violent cases. VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act 2013. It's aimed at improving how colleges address sexual violence, imposed obligations to revise policies and practices. Campus Save Act in 2014, part of the VAWA amendments, made changes to the Jeanne Clery Act, required colleges to report additionally sexually violent crimes, which includes dating, domestic violence, and stalking. So who's protected by Title IX? Everybody that comes to campus, whether you're on the main campus at UD, if you're at Cedar Rapids or in Tempe, anybody that comes into the area that UD owns or controls, those folks are protected by Title IX. So any university student, employee, if we have visitors that come onto our campuses or sub-campuses, all those folks during that time period and they're on our property are protected by Title IX. What does Title IX prohibit? So no person shall, on the basis of sex, be denied or excluded from participation in, the benefits of, or subject to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So, UD, even though we're a public institution, we do receive federal financial assistance, which means we're required to follow the federal law of Title IX. Title IX includes sexual harassment, which is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature, as well as sexual misconduct, which includes assault, dating, domestic violence, and stalking. So responsible employee in Title IX. So what is a responsible employee? So everybody really that comes, that's employed by UD, that's a volunteer at UD, that is someone that represents the institution, are all considered responsible employees under Title IX. So what we really need your help with is keeping our campuses safe. If you see something, say something. Report it to appropriate people at your locations through many different avenues. So you can talk to a person, Julie McTaggart, who's the Title IX Coordinator, Director of Human Resources, either Dean of Student Formation or Engagement, Director of Residence Life, on-campus safety, of course, and security. You can call them or email them any information. We have other resources as well on dbq.edu, our main webpage. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a footer, and on that footer you'll find the Title IX policy as well as our anonymous hotline. Okay, so you can certainly go there and give that anonymous hotline. It's a third-party hotline, so that hotline will communicate with those on campus here, and then we can act appropriately per federal law. We also have an online document, so if you don't want to talk to a human, you can go online, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But that is found on our main campus website as well, dbq.edu, student or campus life, Office of Student Life. When you click in Student Life and click down, you'll see a Maxient report form. Those also can be found in Moodle and through counseling website. There is also a Student of Concern Maxient report. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can report online. Again, we need your help to keep our campuses safe. So if you see something, say something to any of these people, and we'll make sure we respond appropriately. So once you put in that report, we have those reports are shared with specific people, decision makers, and then they make the final determination as to the policy violation and impose sanctions as appropriate per our procedures, which you can find in the employee handbook, student handbooks, faculty handbook, and like I mentioned, on dbq.edu on the footer, so our main website, all the way down on the footer of that page, you'll see the Title IX link, and that gives you our most up-to-date policy. So what is our university response and obligation? So again, once you, as a responsible employee, has either actual or constructive notice of sexual harassment or misconduct, it must be reported to the university. And then as a university, we must take immediate and appropriate steps to investigate what occurred, take prompt and effective action to stop the harassment, prevent the recurrence, and remedy the effects. All right, so I'm going to test your knowledge regarding sexual harassment. So, first question, true or false? Sexual harassment means bothering someone in a sexual way. True. Sexual harassment is any unwanted act or behavior that is sexual in nature that negatively affects the recipient's work or academic environment. So for Title IX, if you remember the actual definition, whatever sexual harassment misconduct is occurring, it also needs to affect the recipient's work and academic environment. The conduct is not sexual in nature. It's any other type of form of harassment. Again, this is really need your help. If you see something, say something, because generally once we become aware of the harassing behavior and we address it, it stops. So please don't wait. Let us know so we can take care of it and help keep our campus safe. Number 2, sexual harassment must persist over a long period of time to be considered actionable. False. A single incident can be considered sexual harassment. Quid pro quo harassment can occur in only one incident, as can hostile environment. So if it's severe or pervasive enough, it could be classified as that. Number 3, a consensual sexual relationship between two people cannot be deemed sexual harassment. False, right? The issue is not one of consent. The issue is whether the advances are welcome. One may consent and yet not welcome the advances. In situations involving two people of unequal status, a subordinate may be unable to refuse sexual advances due to the fear of adverse employment or education action. True or false? Sexual harassment can be perpetrated by a subordinate against their supervisor. True. Even though instances of sexual harassment most often involve a power differential, it is not necessary for the harasser to have more power or authority over the victim. A subordinate employee can create an hostile environment for their supervisor. So true or false? If you believe you have been sexually harassed, you need not personally confront the harasser to give them a chance to correct the behavior before reporting the conduct. True. There is no requirement that a person who has been harassed personally confront the harasser with the objection of the conduct. Case law will tell you that is true. You do not need to approach them, certainly report it, right? If you see something, say something so we can address it and stop the harassment. True or false? If you make a sexually charged joke, everyone seems to laugh and enjoy that humor. This does not constitute sexual harassment since it is not unwelcomed conduct. False. The test, there's a 2-component test to this. So a victim's subjective standard and a reasonable person's objective standard. So a victim could allege that they laughed to avoid an adverse reaction from the rest of the group or supervisor. In addition, a reasonable person test could consider the severity and pervasiveness of the jokes. On to our definitions. So sexual discrimination, which includes harassment, hostile environment, quid pro quo, this or that, sexual misconduct, and then we also talk about retaliation. So sex discrimination, a very broad term, right, that includes many situations. So for example, treating someone differently based on their sex. So including inequity in sport programs, right, for a long time for Title IX, that's what we thought about for Title IX was inequity in sport programs, but also inequity in employment. Also includes sexual harassment, sexual misconduct. So within misconduct is that sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, and stalking, which are all forms of sex discrimination. So sexual harassment. Unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. Unwelcome means uninvited. Failure to object does not necessarily equal welcome. It can include unwelcome sexual advances, sexual favors, verbal, nonverbal, physical conduct of a sexual nature, right? It does not include sexually appropriate non-sexual touching. So just demonstrating sports maneuvers. When athletic trainers are treating our student athletes, right? They're all taught the proper ways of which to implement those maneuvers. Sexual harassment, hostile environment. So unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive, that it denies or limits participation in the program. So it could be student on student. The harasser does not have to target a particular individual. It can include photos, jokes, signs, etc. But remember, First Amendment protections do apply. Sexual harassment, quid pro quo, tangible benefits. So quid pro quo is this for that. So someone in position of power conditions a benefit on a sexual favor or imposes a harm for the rejection of the sexual advances. So sexual misconduct. These are really the big 4 of sexual misconduct protected by VAWA. So we have sexual assault. These are really general definitions. So in our updated Title IX policy, again, you can find on our main webpage, dbq.edu, all the way down to the footer. Click on Title IX and you'll see that policy with more direct information, definitions on these misconduct actions. So sexual assault, non-consensual sexual contact, non-consensual sexual intercourse, two different things, so it's important to read those definitions. Dating and or domestic violence, a pattern of violence or abuse, power and control between those in an intimate relationship with each other. So we say intimate relationship because folks don't really call dating anymore, so it's about being in an intimate relationship, what that looks like, and if there's violence involved. Stalking is a course of conduct directed at a specific person that is unwelcome and would cause a reasonable person to feel fear. And stalking's tricky now, especially with all the different social media platforms that are accessible to folks. So really, if there's something that's making you scared, uncomfortable, and they're unwelcome, please report that so we can help you through that process and deal with that appropriately. So remember, all these are forms of sex discrimination. Okay, so what is consent? Informed, freely, actively given communication that is mutually understood between all persons involved in a sexual encounter. Consent is active, not passive. Silence in and of itself cannot be interpreted as consent. Cannot be obtained by the use of force, threats, intimidation, or coercion. Effective consent cannot be given by a person under legal age, mental disability, incapacitation due to drugs or alcohol, and someone that's unconscious or in a blackout state. Again, in our updated Title IX policy found on our main webpage, dbq.edu, all the way down at the footer, gives you additional information in there as well. Okay, so there's also a video for you to review specific to consent. Just gives you a great overview of consent and what it means.
Hi, I'm here and I'm trying to figure out what consent really is and how to get it right. Hey, can I borrow your phone?
No.
Foiled. Hey, can I have your phone?
No.
Damn! Hey, give me your phone! Victory. Was that consent?
No, that was coercion. Consent must be voluntary.
Jonathan?
Yeah?
Hey, can I borrow your phone really fast?
No.
Okay, great. How about now?
No, clearly he was incapacitated and could not give consent.
Hey, can I borrow your phone? You didn't say no. Did I get it right?
No, two negatives do not make a positive. The absence of no does not mean yes.
Hey, can I borrow your guys' phones?
Yeah, sure. Why? What do you want it for?
It's okay, don't worry about it. I'm sure it's fine, just give it to her.
Tell me I'm good.
Group phones make things complicated. Looks like the middle person was intimidated. Sorry, no go.
Look, can I just have your phone?
Yeah. Just no text or international calls.
Are you comfortable with me changing your ringtone?
As long as it's not disco.
Can I play with your game center?
No, my games are sacred to me, but you can update my software.
Shazam?
Shazam.
Oh. Tell me, please.
A conscious, voluntary decision without coercion or intimidation with clearly spoken boundaries. Congratulations.
Yes.
Retaliation. A person who reports sexual harassment is protected against retaliation by state, federal laws, as well as university policy. Okay, sexual harassment as well as sexual misconduct. So anything falling under Title IX, retaliation is protected by state and federal laws as well as university policy. So reports of retaliation will be investigated and disciplinary action will be taken if appropriate. And please remember, this investigation is separate from any of the underlying investigations into allegations of sex discrimination or harassment. So what does that mean? That means that if we move forward with an investigation based on the reporting party's wishes, at that point throughout that investigation, all parties involved are told that they cannot retaliate, and if they do, then that's going to be an additional investigative report. So please don't retaliate. Support and care for one another. And again, if you see something, say something so we can keep our campus safe. Okay, so as responsible employees of this institution in our outlying areas, Cedar Rapids and Tempe, know your resources, right? So if someone is about to disclose to you, we all kind of feel that weird sensation in our stomachs or a hair on the back of our neck goes up. It's real important that you remember that someone's coming to talk to you because they trust you and are confiding in you. So I really would encourage you to rehearse a statement similar to someone who's about to tell you something pretty important, something to the effect of, "Thank you for coming to see me today. I want to let you know before you start telling, I feel like you're about to tell me something pretty serious. So before you start, I want you to know I have a responsibility to let the institution know about what you're about to say to me if they need to know. So if you would like to tell me, great. If not, here's some confidential resources." That's a really important statement to say in the beginning, because if you would say that after they divulge something pretty confident, they have felt confidential, that relationship would be really difficult to recover from. So again, practice something to that effect. Let the person know who's about to say something to you pretty serious, what your responsibilities are under Title IX as a responsible employee, being part of the UD community. And it will just help that conversation. And it allows them to make that decision then if they're going to continue to have the conversation with you or if they will go talk to someone that's confidential to get more information on how they might want to proceed. So the confidential resources. On campus at UD, at main campus, we have counseling. We also have ordained ministers. And then off campus, we have a Riverview Center, and those are advocates, certified licensed advocates that can help our campus community through anything that they might want to keep confidential. Those with reporting obligations are Dean of Students Formation Engagement, Title IX coordinators, campus safety and security, those that handle residence life, so your RDs and RAs. Again, all employees are responsible employees here at UD unless you're a licensed certified counselor or you're ordained. And then campus security authorities through the Clery Act. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Please know that our Dean of Students will be sending out an email in the beginning of September as well as the beginning of the spring term, which will email you the resources that are available. So if you would happen to receive a disclosure, I would highly encourage you to save these two documents. One will be a Title IX brochure and the other one will be resources generally. And keep those on your desktop or in a folder which you can easily access. So if you would receive a disclosure, you would be able to provide that supportive information to that person. Okay, on the bottom of the slide, you see reports can be submitted online. We talked a little bit about that. So when you go on to dbq.edu, under Campus Life, Office of Student Life, again, you'll find that Maximum report. So I just want to show you briefly what that looks like. As you can see, there are not asterisks here that say that you're required to put in your name, okay? The only thing you're required to do is give us the nature of the report, the date of the incident, location of the incident. If you have the specific location, fantastic. And again, we need you the narrative, so the who, what, when, where, why, okay? So that's really important for us to allow us to track and follow through on to help support our campus community. If there's any files that the person or you would want to upload, so Snapchats, text messages, pictures, etc., you could do that here. Please indicate that you're not a robot. That's real important. Otherwise, we won't get it. And then hit Submit Report. Again, this is where then those decision makers get that information, respond, and do the appropriate thing under the appropriate lenses. Okay, so the Jeanne Clery Act, as I mentioned, that became Jeanne Clery Act in 1998. A little bit about Jeanne. She was a first-year student at Lehigh University. Super excited to be attending there. She played tennis. Her parents were equally as excited for her to attend Lehigh. That was only an hour away from home, so if they wanted to visit or Jeanne needed to come home, that could easily be done. But during her first year at Lehigh, she stayed back in her dorm room one night. Her roommate went out and told her roommate she would keep the door unlocked so she didn't have to take any keys or anything. What she didn't know is that one of her fellow students, who she did not know, kept the door to the dormitory propped open for easy coming and going for all the students that live there. And one of the students, again, that she did not know, decided to enter the dorm room and start checking doors in hopes that they could steal some things. So as the person entered Jeanne's dorm room, while she was asleep, she woke up after he was shuffling through some items, and he decided to rape and murder her. This is what brought on the law. The parents thought, we thought Lehigh University was really safe. We didn't know that there was any type of crime that occurred there. And so they really felt it was important for anybody that's looking to have their kids go to a higher education, college, or university, that they should be aware of what type of crime occurs there. So this is how we got to the Jeanne Clery Act. So how is Title IX and the Clery Act connected? Through VAWA. As you recall, VAWA are those big four: sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, and stalking. And those all are connected with Title IX as well as the Jeanne Clery Act. So the Jeanne Clery Act, it's a federal law. It's a consumer protection law that requires colleges and universities to have certain safety and security policies in place and to publish certain crime statistics, enforced by the U.S. Department of Education, and it's about just over $57,000 per violation. So what does that mean? That means that if UD would get audited and they found 10 different violations within that audit, so if you do 10 times 57,000, pretty hefty price tag. Be aware that the U.S. Department of Education is active in their audits. In 2017, early 18, they audited the University of Montana, and they were fined just under $1 million, and it was all related to crime statistics. University of St. Thomas, similar institution, same time frame, 17-18 time frame, they were fined $170,000. So it's real important, again, as a member of our campus community, to help us keep safe, keep each other safe. If you see something, say something so we can respond appropriately. Remember, all crimes that a UD student is victimized in or a person is victimized in is not reflected for Clery. It's only Clery crimes on Clery geography, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what are the major Clery requirements? So we have an annual security report and fire safety report that has to come out before no later than October 1st of every year. Generally, the university sends out an email prior to October 1st, letting everybody know, the campus community know, that we have a new Clery report up, and then that folks can look at our Clery statistics. So be on the lookout for that. We have a daily Clery crime and fire log. That is housed within our campus safety and security. So if you're curious on what type of crime has occurred within a 60-day period, you certainly could call and request that. Emergency notifications, timely warnings are also required for the Jeanne Clery Act. So what is that? That means that if there's any emergencies on campus, right, inclement weather, fire, chemical spill, active shooter, we would send out what's called a UD alert. That UD alert would tell you what the emergency is and how to take proper safety precautions. We're also required to do timely warnings, and that's after a crime occurred. Okay, so if there's after a crime occurred and there's a continued threat to campus, then we would send out what's called a Spartan warning, which would tell you again what the threat is and then how to take proper safety precautions. Campus security authorities, who are those folks on our campus? So CSAs are our campus safety and security department. Individuals who have responsibility for campus security but are not members of a campus police or security department. So those are folks that act like have a security function. So though we have a workout facility on the main campus, that workout facility, before you enter, you have to get your photo ID scanned so they can track who's there at what time. So those folks are functioning as a security measure for that facility, of which then at that moment, and they're working, they're a CSA. Officials of the institution with significant responsibility for student campus activities. So those are your deans, department heads, supervisors, coaches, RDs, RAs, advisors to student org. So any of you that are advisors to a student org, you're a CSA during that student org function. Staff who supervise student employees. Again, if you supervise student employees, you're a CSA in that moment. Individuals or offices where students and staff are directed to report crimes. So that's your Dean of Students Office, Title IX Coordinator, Safety and Security Department. So what does a CSA do? So CSAs must immediately report all allegations of Clery crimes made to them in good faith. So allegations does not mean you have to wait to report until after it goes through a court system or there's a sworn officer, a police officer involved. It's simply if you become aware of something, if you see something, say something, any allegations, please report it by filling out one of our reports, right? You can talk to someone, email someone, use our online reporting form, call the anonymous hotline, again, found on our main webpage, dbq.edu. Then after you filled out one of your reports, then we have an obligation to respond. We do have an admissional accountability work group. We review all reports, determine what the crimes are and how they need to be disclosed to our different federal law and campus safety requirements, as well as our daily crime and fire log. So what are Clery crimes? These are pretty hefty ones, so certainly take a look at that list. Again, nothing for you to memorize, but simply if you become aware of a crime, any type of inappropriate activity, if you see something, say something, please let our campus know. We really need your help to keep our campus safe. Clery geography. So we have to cover for Clery purposes, right? This Clery crimes on Clery geography. That Clery geography is our on campus, or our main campus footprint that we have here, including residence halls. That's a subset of on campus. Then we have a public property category, so that's your sidewalk, street, sidewalk. So our main footprint on main campus at UD, anything bordering that, your sidewalk, streets, and then the next sidewalk, any crime that's a Clery crime that occurs in that area, we have to track on. Then we have non-campus, so that's anything that UD owns or controls. So that's our Tempe location, that's our Cedar Rapids location, that's the airport that we have in Dubuque County. And then anytime our faculty or staff or representatives of the university travel with students, we temporarily own or control that space that we travel to, both domestically and internationally. So it's super important that if you're traveling with students in any way, to fill out one of our travel forms that can be found within our intranet or our campus portal. So important things to remember: you are not a confidential resource for Title IX and Clery reporting unless you're a certified licensed counselor or ordained minister. Again, you also have to be receiving the disclosure while you're in those capacities. So if you're in counseling session, you're allowed to keep that confidential. If someone approaches you in your office as an ordained person, that information be confidential. But if you're outside the realm of that and you're approached, you really got to think about whether or not your confidentiality extends to that route. You are not an investigator, so when someone comes to you report an allegation, just report what's ever reported to you. You do not have to ask additional questions. Simply let us know what you know and we'll follow up from there. Also know that once you report, that's all your obligation. We will not be responding back to you about how the outcome came for that report, because we have to protect those that are involved. Please direct people who ask for confidentiality to the various resources, both on and off campus. Remember, you're going to receive an email at the beginning of the fall and spring semesters with 2 different pamphlets. Please keep those somewhere for ready access if someone would happen to report something to you. Title IX is for anyone and everyone that comes to our campus. Clery Act is specific to Clery crimes on Clery geography. And again, we really just need your help keeping our campus community safe. Again, if you hear something, say something. Trust that we will respond and move forward with that information. We just need your help in keeping us safe. Thank you so much for your time today. You will have also a quiz that you would need to fill out for both Title IX and the Clery Act. And again, if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of those reporting folks, and we'll respond to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much.